let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
We have fought the good fight and won protected laws. We have kept the faith in the face of adversity. But the fight that we are here again is a statement to the world that we have not finally overcome, that our dreams have not been totally fulfilled. We are not here to commemorate. We are not here to celebrate. We are here to chart a course for the remainder of this century and for centuries to come.
When Martin Luther King Jr. stood on these steps 30 years ago today, he challenged people of goodwill across our nation to rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We've come together under the banner of jobs, justice, and peace to speak for human rights for all races, for people with disabilities, for senior citizens, students and children. We come to speak for the rights of lesbian and gay people, for women and working people, and the labor unions which have lifted up the living standards for the entire nation, and the prophetic words of the dreamer of free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. God bless you. We returned here again and held multicultural demonstration for the 25th anniversary in 1988 and the 30th anniversary in 1993. And we are here again today in what is surely the most diverse nonviolent demonstration for civil and human rights ever held in the nation's capital. In the 4 decades that have come and gone since that glorious day of dreams, I have heard my husband's speech quoted more times than I can count by speakers and writers from all over the world. And almost always they quote from the section of the speech that affirms interracial brotherhood. Yet most of the speech we celebrate today was a cry for justice, using the metaphor of a bounced check to represent America's broken promises to her black citizens. My husband said, we refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity in this nation. And so we've come to cash a check that will give us on demand the riches of freedom and security and justice. We must bring this same cry for justice to our advocacy for world peace. As Martin said on that occasion, there can be no peace without justice, and no justice without peace.
They call the generation of Dr. King the Moses generation, and those out here now Joshua. But if Joshua does not fight the fights of Moses, they're not really Joshua. We saw Dr. King and the dream cross the Red Sea of apartheid and segregation. But we have to cross the Jordan of unequal economic parity. We have to cross the Jordan of continued discrimination and mass incarceration. We've got to keep on fighting, and we've got to vindicate and stand up and substantiate that the dream was not for one generation. The dream goes on until the dream is achieved. 60 years ago, Martin Luther King talked about a dream. 60 years later, we're the dreamers. The problem is we're facing the schemers. It's the streamers on one side, the schemers on the other. The dreamers are fighting for voting rights. The schemers are changing voter regulations in states. The dreamers are standing up for women's right to choose. The schemers are arguing whether they're going to make you stop at 6 weeks or 15 weeks. The dreamers are saying that if you're LGBTQ or trans, you have a right to your life. The schemers are saying we're going to make you look like you're something that should not be tolerated in human society. It's the dreamers against the schemers. The dreamers are in Washington, D.C. The schemers are being booked in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Fulton County jail. The dreamers will win. The dreamers will march. The dreamers will stand up. Black, white, Jewish, LGBTQ. We are the dreamers. We're the children of the dream. Let us march in the name of the dreamers. Let's stand up together, arm in arm. That's why Jonathan Greenblatt's here. That's why McGuire is here. That's why our civil rights leaders are here. It's time to march. Everybody line up, and we're going to march from Lincoln's Memorial to the King Memorial. The dreamers facing the schemers.